On page 7. Also, on the front page of The Nation, lift UAE visa ban on Nigerians. And that is on page 6. And it's coming from the president himself. So President Muhammadu Buhari has intervened in the diplomatic face-off between Nigeria and the United Arab Emirates, which led to a visa ban on Nigerians wishing to travel to the Middle Eastern nation. Let's not forget, last year in October, the Emirati authorities slammed a blanket visa ban on Nigerian travelers, excluding those carrying diplomatic passports. They've not given specific reasons for their decision, but there's a lot of reasons, based on videos and all of that. There are people who have been causing some problems in the country. But then more details on page 6. Now, above the masthead of The Nation newspaper, we have here, energy demand to rise. Energy demand to rise, says NNPCL CEO. And that's on page 7 also. And what that story is telling us is that the energy demand of Nigeria and other African countries is expected to increase by between 30 to 35% to support the projected increase in population and industrialization. Okay, that's interesting. But do we have the capacity to meet this demand, or this expected rise in this demand, Fuad?
Well, I don't know. I don't think we are doing the right thing to be able to meet up that demand, the energy. Because again, if you're talking about industrialization, you are talking about revitalizing the economy. If you're talking about diversifying the economy, of course, the energy needs of the country will go up. We are still over the 6,000 to 5,000 megawatts, and then you have situations where the grid keep collapsing and all of that, So until again we look at the practical solutions to our energy needs, until we begin to look at other sources, alternative sources of energy, and begin to invest heavily in energy production, distribution, and transmission, I don't think they're going to get anywhere. Countries like South Africa, Egypt are doing already 40,000, 50,000 megawatts. We are still struggling with 4,000, 5,000 megawatts. So, I think the solution we always discuss is that we need to unbundle what we call the national grid. It's not working for us. It will never work for us. The fact that it's not going to work. Until again we get a government that can think properly, that can be very proactive, that can be selfless. Our energy needs to just be charged. We are not going to be able to get it done.
All right, more details on page 7. And also we have here NACON to screen airlines for Hajj operations, and that is on page 6 of the Nation newspaper. The National Hajj Commission of Nigeria, NACON, has said the screening of airlines for this year's Hajj operation will begin in the first week of March. That's on page 6. You can get all the details there. And finally, from the front page of The Nation, we have, as regards the presidential poll, there are 4 points updates here that we can get. G5 will speak with vote on February 25, says Wike. Ugwai shuns Atiku to complete aggrieved governor's boycott. Namani, Tinubu has political power to deliver. And finally, AAC governorship candidates lash out at Sowore. And that, you can get all of the details on pages 25 and 28 of the Nation newspaper. Or you can also join us by 4 p.m. today on Ballot 23, right here on the station. Let's move on now. Moving on to the Guardian newspaper. They are listening to Trends in the Papers on 98.3 Mainland FM. And the major headline on the front page of the Guardian newspaper says, banks risk run on citizens. Banks risk run on as citizens await Supreme Court's intervention. Okay, and there are riders to that. CBN insists no extension on February 10 deadline for old notes. Nigeria may lose $18 million in GDP monthly to Naira squeeze, says Rwane. Old notes rejection spreads across Nigeria. CBN needs to pump more than it mopped to avert major financial crisis, Adonri advises. ex-CIBN president, says CBN, other stakeholders must collaborate to restore confidence. And finally, Ogun files application to join Kaduna, Zamfara, Kogi suit against federal government. Now, as we move on, as regards, the cash mop-up and all, I just want to ask this question because I think I remember clearly the CBN Act, Section 22 or so. Should the commercial banks, should the deposit money banks be rejecting the old note, even if it is illegal, it has become an illegal tender, even if it has become an illegal tender? Where else are we supposed to pay it?
You see, Sandra, we are working on a very dangerous path here. The question is this. You may say it's no longer a legal tender, that's the old note. But I think the reasonable thing to do is to ensure that people are still able to bring it to the bank. The only thing is that when it gets into the bank, it doesn't go out again. And like one of the experts from what you read has said, there's no way you are going to mop up almost 3 trillion naira and you expect that 500 billion naira will solve people's cash needs. It's not going to work. It doesn't make any sense. And again, we are not paying attention, Sandra. It's not even about the CBN Act. It's about the fact that, look, we are seeing a brazen disregard for an order of the highest court in Nigeria. We are dangerously killing our institutions, and if we are not careful, that is a precipice for what is called anarchy in any country. When you begin to disregard, disobey rulings of the court, which is supposed to be the last hope of the common man, you are only setting a template for anarchy in any country that does that. And that's what we are seeing here with this unfortunate brazen disregard of the order of the Supreme Court. Because it only simply said that, look, return to status quo. Let us remain till there's another hearing on that. And now the lawyers have said the order has been given. Whether there is a jurisdiction on, there's a February 15, which is today, that the hearing will be done properly, and it is possible to speak like we it or to go ahead to make another pronouncement, which is the thing to do in a country governed by law. You ask yourself, again, where is the CBN government getting this confidence from? Where is it getting all of this from? And again, look at what the Bismarck money is a multiple economy that everybody knows in Nigeria. It's only telling us some of the implications on the economy. When we talk about CBN induced recession, these are things that experts are already telling us. Sandra, go into the major markets and see how people are suffering. Sales have dropped drastically. I am a mother who sells in a market, a major market in Nigeria, I think in Lagos here. And where are the sales going to come from? Because there's no cash to transact. A lot of times transfers are not going, people are frustrated, their monies are debited without dropping or into where they want to sell things and buy things. And then you have this confusion, and then you see how the CBN government grandstanding, insisting, disobeying the court order, the highest court of Nigeria, and we are all quiet and we want to be quiet. And then the dangerous part again is to now trivialize the suffering of Nigeria. I saw the CSO guy who did a press conference yesterday. Was it yesterday or the day before, Sandra?
Yesterday.
And I was just shaking my head.
It was yesterday.
We said, look, where they've had that people are going to be sponsored. Just imagine what even the CBN is saying. That look, the things that the ATMs are artificial. I've seen people who have said their mothers are going to the ATM for 2 hours and yet they could not get the loan. Were those people sponsored? Sandra, this is another level for me. I've said that, look, like I said, when you see incompetence, you can easily identify it and sometimes make a scheme for it. But when it's coming at the highest level of the CBN, for example, and it comes to this level of arrogance, then we should begin to suspect the intentions of these people. Sandra, we should begin to suspect the intentions of these people. The CBN governor, working with the presidency and the president, it's important that we begin to highlight their intentions for putting Nigerians through this action very close to an election. It is important that we put a spotlight on it.
Well, looking further in this particular report, I have here that same CBN governor, Godwin Emefiele, has lambasted POS agents for increasing the agony of Nigerians by their greed. And he said, and I'm quoting,
oh my God.
he said, and I'm quoting, POS agents who are supposed to help are getting involved in these activities. We have made it clear that whatever is their fee, which is not meant to be more than 200 naira for any amount you exchange, the CBN will pay as part of our efforts to lessen the burden of this problem. He said the CBN governor also said that POS operators could come to CBN to be compensated for any extra cost incurred in getting the new notes rather than charging higher fees on customers. Somebody please hold me. I'm trying to have an understanding. So you know that these funds are not available. You know that people are struggling to have access to these funds. You know that they are going out of their way to get this cash, and if some of them are even going as far as paying, to get these new notes, and then you're even affirming that and now telling them, oh, don't charge extra, come to the CBN, we will compensate you.
Everybody should come to the CBN. And
no, POS, hold on, please, so that I would not be misquoted. POS operators, please, not everyone, so that I won't hear somewhere I said that.
No, I'm saying that maybe we should all also go to the CBN to go and open accounts there. So maybe they can give us cash directly from the CBN. It's not impossible, and the same things are happening. This can be another one. It's not impossible. We just go there, go and pick a form and fill form and open account with CBN directly. So he will be the one dispensing cash to us. This is wants to be the one to be in charge of everything. And look, Sandra, one of my respected of that, who I respect so much, posted this, and I just want to read out to Nigeria. Again, he said, look, basic economics teaches us that people hold what is scarce. At least you should know that one. It is basic economics, it's not basic. At least I expect that the CBN government, it doesn't know anything, should at least know that fact. That basic economics teaches us that people hold what is scarce, or put premium on it. So anyone with cash at hand will not take it from the bank because he will not be able to withdraw it. Or what? They will sell it to POS operator for extra cash.
That is
the POS operators start getting arrested, they will go on the ground, create a black market, and the scarcity will get worse. Sandra, this is basic thinking. It's not rocket science. The CBN government at least will know this and should know this. Unless something is wrong somewhere, Sandra.
All right, just as Fuhad has also mentioned, all of this is just basic economics. I mean, looking at it, when people sense that there'll be scarcity of something, it's just normal that they try to hoard it. That this thing is not going to be available anytime soon. The one that you have left, you're going to hold on to it until there's a supply of what that thing is. All right, and there's or put a premium on it, just as the POS operators are doing. And so anyone with cash at hand will not keep it in the bank because the banks are not paying out. He will rather keep it with him, or worse, he will sell it to POS operators for extra charges. Very, very, just as Fuhad has also pointed out. And there's also the conversation as regards the GDP of the country, and also the statements in recent times of the president. Looking at this now, it's a serious problem now for commercial banks because now the confidence in the banking system is seriously eroding as we speak now. People are seriously distressed about whether or not they should still continue to keep their funds in the banks. More details on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. I'm moving on now very quickly. We also have here, we only granted Fani Kayode bail. Investigation continues. And that's on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. Basically, what we have is that the Department of State Services, DSS, yesterday disclosed that what transpired between them and Femi Fani Kayode, saying that they had invited Fani Kayode for interrogation over an allegation of a coup against the government. And Fani Kayode, who happens to be a spokesman for the APC Presidential Campaign Council, was quizzed and all of that, saying that there are claims that some presidential candidates, alongside some other people, were plotting to scuttle this year's election and carry out a coup against the government. But then what we have now is that they have invited him. They only invited him, and that the investigation was in respect of an investigation, or the invitation was as regards an investigation on some of his allegations and insinuations. But then now he has been granted administrative bail. and he'll be making routine, returns to the office whenever they ask till otherwise. And also, the PDP presidential an aide to the PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar has called on Femi Fani-Kayode to apologize for alleging a coup plot. You can get all of the details on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. We also have here Bawa not defying court, says EFCC, as over 100 civil society organizations petition the National Assembly. So I remember last year when Olopa was carrying everybody at some point. It's a lot of major security agencies chairman and ogas were being picked up. I remember EFCC boss was allegedly also in contempt of court. But now we have that the EFCC has denied allegation that its chairman, Abdul Rashid Bawa, lacks respect for court orders. And spokesman for transparency and accountability said the CSOs were there to submit a submission to the National Assembly through the Speaker. But then, at a briefing, EFCC spokesperson also said that the groups staging the protests have no interest in the fight against corruption, and they are only said okay, all right. So he believes that as moving forward, the EFCC boss, information available to the commission indicates that the group is sponsored by persons under investigation by EFCC. So that's as regards the people that were protesting, and the CSOs, the civil organizations, society organizations that were protesting. However, EFCC is appealing to the public to disregard the campaign by this group, as they do not represent the genuine interest of millions of Nigerians who are desirous of seeing progress in the fight against corruption. Just very quickly, I don't know, the recent actions or inactions by civil society organizations has been quite interesting, and it's beginning to bring a lot of scrutiny as regards the motives behind their actions and whatnot. You mentioned, or we watched a group of civil society organizations,
and a very interesting person, right?
Yes, very, very passionate, making a very emotional appeal yesterday on TV. But then this is now as regards it's okay. But more details as regards EFCC and the petition of CSOs, more details on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. I also have here G5 not dead, we are silently strategizing, says Wike. That is on page 29. And that's on page 29 of the Guardian newspaper. So the Rivers State Governor, Nyesom Wike, has explained that G5 governors of the PDP have withdrawn from talking regularly in public to embark on silent strategic actions to achieve set goals. And he said this at the venue of the rally organized by Rivers State PDP Campaign Council. He also described Senator Lee Maiba, a member of the PDP Presidential Campaign Council in the state, as an illiterate for claiming that the G5 is dead. And Nyesom Wike is also insisting that there is time to appear in public, and there's also a time to withdraw in silence to activate requisite political actions towards the elections. All right, so we'll see what exactly they are,
That's good for the G5. The way what happens at the polls.
Yes.
I think we should get ourselves away from that distraction. Whatever
right.
they are able to do, we see it at the polls here.
Okay. We also have here Zamfara evict NGOs for allegedly fueling insecurity and impunity. That is on page 30 of the Guardian newspaper. Also have here Igbo Elders Forum, Afenifere, warn against imposition of interim government. That's on page 3. And what we have is that eminent Nigerians from the southeast, under the aegis of Igbo Elders Consultative Forum, have urged those plotting the idea of an interim government after President Muhammadu Buhari's tenure to bury the thought. The forum also warned INEC against postponing the presidential election for whatever reason. And we also have a former Anambra governor, that's Ezefe, also saying that the scheduled February 25 general election should remain sacrosanct and take place as planned by INEC and should not be postponed for whatever reason, as being canvassed by some dissidents and enemies of the country who are bent on truncating the democratic progress process. All right. Similarly, we also have Pan Yoruba socio-political organization Afenifere have also urged the president to resist any temptation or pressure to foist on the country any change of government that is not a product of the democratic practice. And they disclosed this in a statement signed by the National Publicity Secretary Jare Ajayi, and they said they're maintaining that the call is not necessarily in support of Kaduna State government or because of interest in any particular candidate or whatnot. That's Kaduna State governor, that's Nasir El-Rufai, as regards the statement of whether or not there are elements in the presidency that are working against or that are using the lingering fuel and naira scarcity to frustrate the conduct of the elections. They are saying, rather, we are making this call because of the sacrifices we, along many other Nigerians, dead and alive, have made to ensure that we have civil rule. We are happy that we have had about 24 years of civil rule and 6 transitions from one civilian administration to another since 1999. So, that is as regards an imposition or speculations of imposition of an interim government.
Again, I think it's clear. An arrangement for interim government is not new to the constitution. It's unconstitutional. I don't think anybody should be thinking about that. So since these are just insinuations, they are still mere rumors. We just assume that it is what it is. Again, nobody is going to buy any unconstitutional arrangement for transition this time. We are a democracy. If you have a peaceful transition, I agree that the elections must hold as scheduled and nothing must affect it. And thank God that the president has committed to that. We already have a transition committee set up already. So we assume that all is well. So let's just put the usual government on the platform of rumor and estimations, and that's what it is for now.
All right. Now we're moving on from that, but then finally we have here, still as regards the stock fund, that's the $560 million stock fund. Foreign airlines have ditched the naira, travel agencies, as crisis is worsening. All right, and that is on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Oh, Lord have mercy. Now moving on to okay. Let's move on now to the Punch newspaper and see what we have trending from there. The major headline on the front page of the Punch: Naira crisis worsens. Confusion as over CBN silence on old notes legal tender status. POS agents, customers film as protesters barricade road. Emefiele justifies Naira redesign. Accuses politicians of mop-up. That is on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. So very quickly, I just take one statement or the other from different parts of this report. What we have is that the crisis surrounding the redesign of the Naira, as the CBN has failed to clarify the legal tender status of the old notes. That's from the Punch newspaper. However, let's not forget that yesterday the CBN governor ruled out further extension of the deadline stipulated for the phasing out of the old notes. Fish sellers are lamenting their inability to carry out transactions with the old Naira notes due to the CBN cashless policy, stating that many businesses have already shut down. And there are more that will still collapse due to the rejection of the old notes, even by the banks and cold room operators. Also, we have here National Coordinator of the CSO-CCCC, Obed Okukwe, had accused 10 unnamed governors of masterminding the protest against the current policy in their states. So that's the report that we watched yesterday.
man and maybe the CSO guy that
yes.
was shouting so passionately and all that.
No, you
and half of his audience in that hall were sleeping. And I also suspect that half of this audience didn't know what he's talking about. God knows where he got them from.
It's okay. Also, we have here.
Yes, I saw this man sleeping on the floor now. He's sleeping, and half of the people, he said that his audience who were in tandem with him, what he was saying, they were all sleeping. And looked at like people didn't even know what he was saying.
Okay. Well, we also have here that the CBN Governor Emefiele has blamed those mopping up cash, the hoarders and racketeers, for the queues at the ATM points, saying that he said the CBN will create the availability of an appropriate optimal amount of the new notes and even the existing 100 naira, 50 and 20 naira to support economic activities. We will continue to issue and circulate new notes, but once we get to our optimal level or slightly above, we will seek to put in place a policy that people must not keep money in their homes. That's where we are going now. So he said that the economic shock triggered by this was temporary and necessary to encourage a more cashless economy, and to effectively drive this, the governor submitted that the money in circulation should be around 700 billion to 1 trillion naira. And he has appealed to members of the diplomatic community for support in ensuring the success of the cashless policy. The POS operators also said something as regards this, saying the President's Association of Bank Customers, Dr. Uju Ogubunka, expressed shock over CBN's hasty decision, saying, "I'm surprised that the CBN is not waiting for the Supreme Court to take a decision, as we have been told that they are slated to hear the issues that the three state governments presented to them. I don't know what the haste is all about, and yet we don't have the new notes. The CBN is preparing for chaos. However, the association is ready to work with the CBN, but the extant issues still linger." More details on page 2 of the Punch newspaper as regards Naira crisis. Also, we have on the front page of the Punch newspaper, contempt. EFCC kicks as CSOs demand Bauer's removal. That's on page 26. NYSC warns core members against crime as orientation ends. That's on page 18. We also have here U-turn INEC to keep sensitive election materials with CBN. That's on page 8 of the Punch newspaper. Very quickly, we don't have so much time. What we have is that INEC has said that sensitive materials for the 2023 general elections are in the custody of the Central Bank of Nigeria. This was disclosed by the National Commissioner and Chairman, Information and Voter Education Committee, INEC, that's Festus Okoye. Let's not forget that individuals and groups in 2022 raised concerns about the sanctity of election materials kept with the CBN after news went round indicating that the CBN governor may or may not be contesting for the country's presidential seat. And as a result of that, or those apprehensions, then the chairman of INEC, Mahmood Yakubu, last year, June 4, 2022, said that sensitive electoral materials would in the meantime no longer be routed through the CBN. However, now what we have now is that INEC has concluded the delivery of non-sensitive materials across the country, but then still with the CBN. Okay, but observers are still
okay, all right. The issue again is about protecting our institutions, protecting processes, and the way we do things. When this idea then of the CBN trying to become president, even as a sitting president came, these were some of the concerns raised by Nigerians. And at that time, I even remember the other chairman was like, with this, because we're saying whether it's rumor or not, he's not sure that they'll be keeping sensitive materials which is there. But the reality is that whether we like it or not, they are a politically exposed CBN government. Even though we may not be running against, the rumors are no longer there. But the fact is that he is a politically exposed government. Even though there's nothing you can do about it, I'm sure that INEC will still have to go ahead and keep it to the CBN sensitive material. But the reality is that we now have it on record that we had a CBN governor who was politically exposed, who was ready to go into the multi-world of politics, who didn't even accept the sanctity of the institution there. These are records that we talk about last year in the future. That indeed we are the CBN government.
Well, more details on page 8. Oh God, that is more details on page 8 of the Punch newspaper. We also have here, resist interim government temptation, Afenifere tells Buhari. That's on page 26. And finally, from the front page of the Punch newspaper, expulsion, Nnamani sues PDP, Ayu restates backing Tinubu. Wait, oh sorry, apologies. Nnamani sues PDP and Ayu. Nnamani restating his backing for Tinubu, and that is on page 13.
I mean, these are party activities. Nnamani is a member of the PDP, but you know, even as a senator, he has never shied away from saying that he's for Asian development.
But now he has sued. Okay, I'm with you.
Well, you see how the thing goes, because the party has expelled him for anti-party activity.
Yes.
I think the first suspending him, I think they now expelled him. And maybe from that basis that is going to come. But then how would have stopped them? You know, how would you be? Just like, you know, you say in the America, somebody is a Republican, is supporting the Democratic president. The president on the platform of the Democratic Party. I don't know how the politicians do these things, but, you know, we see what the courts will say about the things they are taking the case to court. And I think that it was somehow reasonable for the party to suspend, because the willingness for you to be in the party and then support a presidential candidate in an opposition party. Just party activity.
All right, thank you.
Enough for long ground for the president.
All right, and now finally on trends in the papers, let's look through what we have on Vanguard newspaper. You're listening to Mainland 98.3 FM. The major headline on the front page of Vanguard says, no need extending deadline for old notes, says CBN. And the writers to that, vows to arrest POS operators charging exorbitantly. Banks, business owners reject old notes. 472 CSOs hail Emefiele for standing firm, say only vote buyers are complaining. Reject old notes, face sanctions. Ganduje, Abiodun threatened and others. Federal government to take position after Supreme Court ruling. That's on page 5 of Vanguard newspaper. We also have on the front page here, Fani Kaude, watch your utterances, DSS warns political parties. That's on page 13. We also have on the front page of Vanguard newspaper, why I go to markets for campaign. That's Peter Obi of the Labour Party. That's on page 9. You can know why he goes to the markets. And we also have here, manufacturers' confidence in economy dips in the fourth quarter of 2022. And that is on page 19. Naira swap, cash crunch takes toll on small businesses as old banknotes still circulate. And that is on page 26 of Vanguard newspaper. And very quickly, just a minute, we have business owners yesterday lamented the severe impact of the ongoing cash crunch, citing low patronage, even as some continue to accept the old Naira banknotes. And there are findings that show that while banks continue to reject the old Naira notes, a lot of businesses, mostly transporters and traders, appear to have been trapped with the old banknotes. There are also indications that small businesses are still trading with the old notes following the scarcity of the new notes. So consequently, rejection of the old notes has become widespread. Some traders have been caught in the web. Basically, what it means is that before the CBN governor came out yesterday and said that the deadline remained sacrosanct, the February 10 deadline, people were still collecting the old notes and all of that, and now businesses are stuck with the old notes and the banks are not collecting them, and people are not patronizing because they don't have the new notes. So therein lies.
My mom told me yesterday about the old notes. And look, what they simply decided to do in the market is that they are spending it among themselves because they have to keep business going. So what they resolved to do is that within the market, they will be collecting it, because somehow the transactions must continue to grow because they live on these daily transactions. So they deserve among themselves as traders and look, if the banks will collect, let's just keep spending amongst ourselves just to ensure that the business is growing. That's what they've been doing. And I'm talking about valuable market there in Lagos. That what are they doing? Are they going to shut down businesses? Are they going to go home and sleep? These are daily income, daily transactions. If they don't come out in any day, what would they do?
Well, that's it for this morning on Trends in the Papers. As we see, the major across all the papers is the cash crunch issue, and also, the Igbo elders and the Afenifere saying that this is not time for an interim government, encouraging or discouraging or saying that the president should resist an interim government temptation, and all other stories that we had across the papers this morning. All right, stay with us. We'll be back by 8:40 for Mainland Focus, where we open up the phone line and you can call in or send text messages and be a part of the conversation this morning. This is 98.3 Mainland FM. We are the sound of Lagos. Stay with us.